So welcome back to another episode of Power with the BI. So you want to know if you can go into coding without, can you go into tech without coding? Can you go into tech without coding? So you want to know if you can go into tech without coding, and the answer to that is absolutely yes. You can go into tech without coding. Of course, this course, what I teach, what I do as a profession is Power BI. You can go into Power BI without coding, without coding one bit in your professional career. And yes, you can make above six figures without being able to code. I actually have friends that work in Power BI. Have several friends that are in the Power BI game, data analytics, data science industry, and they do not code in their everyday profession. Now, with that said, it is rare, but you can find coding jobs without. You can find coding jobs without. I mean, you can't find Power BI jobs without knowing how to code, without coding, period. But I'll ask you a question. So, if you work on cars, does that make you a mechanic? Now, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that if you work on a car, that makes you a mechanic. If you fix car air conditions, automobile air conditions, I'm going to say you're a mechanic, not an air conditioned car person, right? Or a car air conditioned person. If you work on cars, you are a mechanic. Uh, let's just say even with F1 racing or the Indy 500, you got guys and all they do in their career is change tires, right? If you change tires on cars for a living, does that make you a mechanic? And that answer is yes. That makes you, to me, that makes you a mechanic if you work on cars in any way as a profession. If you change oil, yes, you are a mechanic. If you change oil, you're a mechanic. So what I'm going with that is you don't have to do everything. You don't have to change the oil. You don't have to fix tires, fix the air conditioning, car air conditions, and all of that kind of stuff in order to be considered a mechanic. If you work on cars, to me, and I don't know what Mr. Webster's dictionary definition of mechanic is, but if you work on cars, you are a mechanic. Now, let's streamline that just a little bit. So, let's say you take your car to get the oil change, right? You take the car to get the oil change, and you get it there, and the person, he changes your oil, and when he changes your oil, let me back up. Let's talk about what you're seeing here. So, because I'm sure you probably have questions. If you've been following me, if you've been watching my channel, you probably asking yourself, hey, this doesn't look like the normal setup that Tarab normally has when he shoots his videos. And you're absolutely right. So here's the deal. Am I working? Yes, I am at work right now. I am a Power BI developer. I am at work. I am doing my thing. But where I'm going with that is, in Power BI, you do not have to be locked into a four-walled office building. If you want to, you can. If you want to go into the office, you can. And there are some opportunities where you can work full-time in the office. In Power BI, there are some opportunities where you can work hybrid in Power BI, which means you can work 1, 2, 3, 4 days a week in the office and 1 day at home, or 1, 2, 3, 4 days at home and 1 day in the office. It just depends on the opportunity that you decide to accept. You really are in control when you. Well, let me back up and say it a different way. When you're a Power BI developer, you can control whether or not you work at home, or whether you work remote, or whether you work hybrid. Now, working hybrid is a little bit more flexible. The opportunities are a little bit higher now than they were a couple of years ago, a few years ago, definitely in the middle of COVID. But there are some remote opportunities. If you're saying, hey, I want to be 100% remote, you can't be 100% remote. If you're saying, hey, I like being around people, so I want to be in the office 100% of the time, you can, and there are opportunities where you can be hybrid. I'm not going to try to persuade you one way or another. But what you're seeing here is I am at work as confirmation that you don't have to be inside of an office to be at work. I am at work. To be honest, I'm actually in Cabo. I'm actually in Cabo in Mexico, Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, and it's pretty cool out here. If you want to know what hotel I am, I'm not going to drop that here in the video. If you want some idea, this is really probably the one of the most top of the line hotels that I've stayed in. But I don't get paid to talk about hotels here in this particular video. They haven't hired me to do so. But I'm definitely not going to gatekeep. If you're interested in knowing where hotel this is, definitely hit me up and shoot me a message here in the comments, and I'll reply back to you and let you know where it actually is. It's pretty cool though. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. This is not a flex. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm flexing being in Cabo and working and stuff like that. I just, one, I was really thinking about taking a week off from shooting the video, talking to you this week. But at the same time, I was like, this could really reach someone that needs to hear what I've got to say. And it really is not going to hurt. Well, endangering we spending 45 minutes to an hour talking about Power BI and ensuring you that you can get into Power BI without coding or with minimal coding in your day-to-day operations. So back to the mechanic piece. So say you take your car to the mechanic, or say you take your car to get the oil change. You get the oil change, and that person there is a certified mechanic type person, I guess. I'm not a mechanic, so I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not shooting down mechanics. I'm just giving you a hypothetical. So that person is a mechanic. He changes oil. Now, with that said, as a Power BI developer, you can get into coding without coding, period. But the opportunities are less. Most of the time, when you are interviewing with someone or you're meeting with someone, talking to them about your Power BI experience, they are going to ask you, do you know DAX? Do you know SQL? They may throw Python out there, but if a person interviewing you asks you if you know Python, that pretty much lets you know that it's one or two things that's going on there. One is they're probably looking for someone more than just a Power BI developer. They're probably looking for someone that can input some AI into Power BI, or that person really doesn't know what they're talking about. Because if someone is asking you about Power BI Python today, if someone asks you about Power BI Python today, trust me, they probably don't really have a clue about Power BI, or they've got a very limited clue, because there are times when you can use Power BI that you can use Python in Power BI, but for the most part, you don't really necessarily use Python. That's a whole other conversation. But with that said, you're not going to have to use. In my course, I don't teach you in Power of the BI. I don't teach you Python in Power of the BI, because that's not something that you need in everyday operations today, working in Power BI. Now, with that said, if you take my course and then you come under my mentorship, you take my mentorship class, then you become one of my mentees. When I say my mentorship class, because that's not necessarily a class, but if you become one of my mentees, then we'll get into some Python as it relates to Power BI. Now, with that said, DAX, which is data analytic expression language, that is what's used in Power BI all day, every day. That's what's used in Power BI. So, With that being said, I do incorporate teaching you DAX as needed in Power BI, and I use as needed very loosely because we don't really get into the intricate details of how DAX and why DAX. We only talk about, well, not why, but when. So we don't talk about how DAX and why DAX. We get into when DAX, wet DAX, right? And as long as you can understand DAX, and when I say understand it, understand when to use it, you're good. And that's one of the primary things we talk about. That's one of the primary things that I teach in my course, Power of the BI. When to use DAX and what DAX to use. And really to be honest, more often than not, there are probably, I'm going to say maybe 15 different expressions, when I say expressions, pieces of code that you will use in Power BI. Now, can you add on those expressions? Yeah. There are really some basic formulas that you can use, and as long as you understand the basic formulas of when to use and what's being asked or when it's to be used, you really can progress and excel within Power BI and as a Power BI developer, as if you are a total superstar. Now, SQL, you will get the question, do you work with SQL? How do you work with SQL? Now, with that said, SQL, which is SQL, standard query language is what SQL stands for. We call it SQL for short. Now, SQL is what DAX is built upon, right? If you understand SQL, understanding DAX is going to make, if you understand SQL, creating DAX formulas is going to be a piece of cake. So what I do in my course is I do teach you SQL. You do learn SQL. Again, do you need to know everything about SQL? No, you do not need to know everything about SQL. No way. I mean, but at the same time, who really knows everything about the English language? No one that I know, right? So where I'm going with that is you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be intimidated when it comes to learning SQL, when it comes to learning DAX, when it comes to building Power BI reports. And again, a Power BI report at the end of the day is nothing but a dashboard, right? I didn't go to school for formal education to learn Power BI, okay? I'm not even gonna, we'll talk about that more in my webinar as to how I got into the game and where I am today. But what I'm saying is, if you have zero knowledge of Power BI today, in 6 months, you could be making $110,000 to $115,000 as a Power BI developer. Let me say that again, and let me say that a different way. In 6 months, you could be making $110,000 to $115,000 a year. Did I say a month? Yeah, I didn't mean a month, I mean a year. Did I say a month? I meant a year. Your annual salary could equate to $110,000 to $115,000 a year, even if you don't have any experience or any knowledge of Power BI today, right? So, for those of you guys out there that are 40 to 50 years old, 40 to 55 years old, and you're looking you're looking for another career to get into, you're looking to transition your career, you're looking to pivot your career, but don't necessarily know what you want to pivot into. You want to get into tech, but you don't know how to get into tech. So what I'm going to say is how to get into tech is taking my course, Power of the BI. Now, that was a shameless plug. I do apologize. No, not really, but you can learn Power BI in my course, Power of the BI. But if you're looking to pivot into another career, into career 2.0, Power BI is the perfect place. Is the perfect place to start. let me start out and let me say this. I am hosting a webinar that is coming up next night. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. I am hosting a webinar. It's not going to be this Sunday, but next Sunday. Now, if you're saying, hey, I'm 3 months late from looking at this video, that's okay. Just follow the link in it. Just follow the link here in the description of this video and register for the next webinar. And I will send you information for the next webinar. Okay. But bottom line is, where I'm going with that is, I'm hosting a webinar. It's a free 90-minute. It's a free, approximately 90-minute virtual webinar, and I will be totally transparent with you guys and talk to you exactly about how to get into Power BI, what to expect, and even if you have no current knowledge of Power BI, business intelligence, and Power BI stands for Power Business Intelligence. Just to give a little history, Power BI is a Microsoft tool. So if you are within the ages of in the age range between 40 and 55 years old, if you remember the early days of Microsoft, and you remember when Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel was free and it came with a PC, that's where Power BI is now. But Power BI is more of an enterprise tool as opposed to a consumer everyday tool, which means there's more money. Let me say this a different way. Businesses are paying high rates, high salaries for individuals that know Power BI, whereas if you just put Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel on your resume, that does not guarantee that you're going to get a high rate, get a high rate or a high salary. That means that you're letting these guys know that you have knowledge of Microsoft Word and Excel. But if you put Power BI on your resume, you're putting yourself in position to compete for some high-level six-figure opportunities, anywhere from $105,000, $110,000, $115,000 on the low end to anywhere, if I had to say, $130,000, $140,000 maybe. And I've seen some opportunities at $170,000, but they're not necessarily entry-level positions. I'm talking about entry-level positions between $105,000 to $115,000. On average, about 110, 105 is a pretty good starting point. But on average, I think I've seen average offers at about $110,000 for positions coming out of Power of the BI, or positions that are available for students who complete Power of the BI. Now, if you can find a university out there today, if you know of a university that's out there today, college, university, junior college, high school even, it doesn't matter to me. But if you can find some form of teaching out there where individuals are being taught in a classroom, Power BI, taught in a classroom, Power BI, please let me know. Because I don't believe that there's any out there today. Which means that it puts, if you have no working knowledge right now of Power BI, if you don't know Power BI right now, that puts you on a level playing field. If you are 40 to 55 and you're competing for the job with a 25 to 35 or 25 to 40-year-old that's working in tech, you're putting yourself on a level playing field because they're just learning it too. This is not something they've been doing for the last 20 years, right? They're just learning it too. So, there are a lot of opportunities out there where individuals say, hey, you can get into this with no code, not knowing how to code, this, that, and the third. So my son would say this, that, and the third. But in many of those cases, some of those skills are being taught in the classroom within data science or computer engineering type of coursework But Power BI, that's not the case. Now, I'm not saying that even if it was the case, you still can learn, you still can compete. But what I'm telling you is your own level playing field. You know, the the, the playground has been changed to allow older players onto the playground to make this money that these young guns are making coming right out of college because they're willing to take a chance on saying, hey, I've got some experience, I've got some skills in this particular application. And we've got older guys that are looking at it like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what they're talking about. And what I'm saying is, listen, if you want to learn Power BI, if you look at, well, let me look and say this a different way. If you want to get into tech and you're not sure how you want to get into tech, you don't know what skill you want to get into tech. I'm not going to tell you that you can get into, that you can do Power BI with. I'm not going to tell you that you can be. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to be successful for years on end to working in Power BI, but not coding and not knowing how to code. I'm saying you can get into Power BI with little code and be super effective in competing competing for six-figure positions in as little as 4 to 6 months. I'm in Power of the BI, the course that I teach, Power of the BI, powerofthebi.com. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to invite you into the program without you, and you're going to complete the program without knowing how to code. What I'm saying is, if you take my course, Power of the BI, over at powerofthebi.com, you will know enough code to be successful. You don't have to be a genius nerd computer programmer. You just need to know enough code to be successful. And that's what you're going to get in addition to being able to be an outstanding and excellent elite, whatever you want to take your Power BI development skill set to. So just, trust me there. Now, if you guys can remember back in 1999, for those of you that are out there that can remember back in 1999, in November, December 1999, the world was on notice. At December 31, 1989, the world was going to shut down, the computer system was going to crash, and, we don't know what's going to happen because, in Y2K, there's going to be a Y2K bug that's going to crash all the computers worldwide. That didn't happen. Okay, that didn't happen. What I'm telling you is now, wherever you are in your career journey, Power BI is going to be the most powerful business intelligence application for the coming years. I've got several reasons to believe that. I don't think I own any Microsoft stock, but I do know the position that Microsoft is. I do see the position that Microsoft is putting itself in, and what it's leading me to believe is that every business sooner or later is going to be Power BI. I'll leave that there. You can think about it. You can Google it. If you got any questions in regards to how much money can really be made in Power BI, I want you to either Google Power BI developer, Power BI, primarily Power BI developer. That's what you'll primarily qualify for when you come out of Power of the BI over at powerofthebi.com. You can Google how much that particular title is paid right now. In addition to, there's a site that I like to use called Dice. It's a technology site. It's a technology work site, work job board that you can apply for different jobs. Go in there, look at Power BI development, and if I'm lying to you, you can put it into the comments and say, hey, this guy's lying to you. You're not going to make that kind of money doing Power BI. But if so, let me know you went over there. Let me know you checked it out. Let me know that you agree. Shoot me a thumbs up and all of that. Speaking of shooting a thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out, helps me get access to more individuals just like you. And to finish up, I want you to know that I am going to be hosting a free webinar coming up this Sunday. Sorry, not this Sunday, but next Sunday. I am holding a free webinar, about a 90-minute webinar next Sunday, teaching you Power BI, right? Showing you what you can do with Power BI based on your current career, job description, educational background. You're going to see what you can do with Power BI, and it's very easy for you to do. Well, and that it could be very easy for you if you learned it, and then be able to position yourself into that six-figure salary within the next 4 to 6 months after completing my course, Power BI, over at powerofbi.com. But anyway, I am going to go back down and enjoy myself here at work because I hear the band playing. But I want to say once again, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you again.